Good evening, friends, and welcome to Sleepy Time Tales, a podcast aimed at helping you to get a good night's sleep. This is a podcast where I read old books, sometimes fiction, sometimes non-fiction, in the most boring way I can to try and help slow your spinning mind, enough for you to fall asleep in the most natural way possible. The stresses of life often follow us to bed and keep us company, but I'm here to distract you from them and help you drift away. Before you do fall asleep, if you find Sleepy Time Tales helpful and you would like to support me to keep it going out to you and thousands of your fellow insomniacs, please consider supporting on the Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytimetales. Alternatively, there is also, you can throw a tip in the tip jar. Both of these things are linked in the show notes. Or you can support Sleepy Time Tales by simply spreading the word. If you know someone struggling to sleep, just tell them about it and how to find it. And that's enough of that. Time to get to a very boring beginning of a travelogue around the Mediterranean. So settle down, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and listen closely as I lead you down the path to sleep. This week, we're going to a new non-fiction book, The Mediterranean Seaports and Sea Routes, a handbook for travelers by Carla. Go, the little book, God send thee good passage, and specially let this be thy prayer. Unto them all that thee will read or hear, where thou art wrong, after all they help to call thee to correct in any part or all. Preface. The present handbook to the Mediterranean describes the chief routes along all the Mediterranean coasts. In his endeavor to unite within a single volume the chief points of interest in so vast a region, the editor has naturally been confronted by peculiar difficulties. These points are so numerous that little space could be afforded for more subordinate matters, so that many details have necessarily been omitted. Again, as regards the selection of routes and of places to be described, opinions frequently differ. The editor ventures, however, to hope that on the whole he has satisfied the requirements of most of his readers. As many of the regions which are here grouped historically and geographically have already been treated of in several of his other handbooks, the editor would respectfully refer the traveler to these for fuller details. The new subjects comprise Madeira and the Canary Islands, the coast of Morocco and Algeria and Tunisia. The materials for describing which have been collected, in the course of much travel, by several of the editor's friends and fellow workers. The chief author of the German edition, which appeared in 1909, was Dr. F. Propping, of Godesberg on the Rhine, who personally visited most of the places described. The present English edition has been prepared by the editor's old friend, Emeritus Professor John Kirkpatrick, formerly of Edinburgh University, who 50 years ago, in 1861, translated the handbook for the Rhine, and thus introduced Baedeker's guides books to the English public. In bringing the information contained in the new Mediterranean volume up to date, the editor has received valuable aid from British and United States consuls and ministers, and from other authorities, have shown the utmost courtesy and willingness to assist. To all of these, the editor expresses his grateful acknowledgements. Many readers will be interested also in the geographical sketch by the late Professor Theobald Fischer, who died in 1910, one of the great authorities on the Mediterranean coastlands. Special care has been bestowed on the maps and plans with which the handbook is furnished. Several of these are based on materials hitherto unpublished, and others have been locally revised and improved for the special benefit of the handbook. In the case of Algeria and Tunisia, the French spelling has been adopted in the letterpress as well as in the maps. Hotels. As in all his handbooks, the editor has taken the utmost care to recommend none but comfortable and respectable hotels. From this, as from all his other handbooks, advertisements, direct and indirect, are absolutely excluded. Persons calling themselves agents for Baedeker's handbooks are imposters and should be handed over to the police. As many matters treated of in the handbook are liable to frequent change, and as, in the Orient particularly, trustworthy sources of information are too often lacking, the editor will warmly appreciate any communications with which travelers may kindly favor him. International Hotel Telegraphic Code. The International Association of Hotel Keepers has agreed on the following code. Alba, room with a single bed. Alba Duo, room with double bed. Arab, room with 2 beds. Ebek, room with 3 beds. Belab, 2 rooms and 2 beds. Birak, 2 rooms and 3 beds. Bonad, 2 rooms and 4 beds. Sirok, 3 rooms and 3 beds. Karad, 3 rooms and 4 beds. Kalde, 3 rooms and 5 beds. Kaduf, 3 rooms and 6 beds. Kasag, 3 rooms and 7 beds. Dunid, 4 rooms and 4 beds. Tomei, 4 rooms and 5 beds. Danoff, 4 rooms and 6 beds. Dalag, 4 rooms and 7 beds. Dirik, 4 rooms and 8 beds. Derby, 4 rooms and 9 beds. Kind, child's bed. Sal, saloon, private sitting room. Bat, private bathroom. Serve, servant's room. The class of room may be indicated by best, bon, or plain. Day and hour of arrival must be notified. Grammatin is midnight to 7 a.m. Matin is 7 to 12. Sarah is 12 to 7. And Grand Sarah 7 to midnight. And also duration of stay. Pass means 1 night. Stop means several days, but is not binding. Name and address of applicant must be given. If prevented from coming, cancel with his signature suffices. Season and plan of tour. Health. Season of tour. The mildness of the climate makes traveling pleasant in the Mediterranean lands at almost any season. Even in the height of summer, travelers who can stand a little heat will find residence in many of the islands and seaside resorts quite agreeable. Winter begins here much later and ends much earlier than in northern or central Europe. But until the end of March, few regions are quite exempt from wintry days and falls of snow. March is considered also the windiest month in the year on the Mediterranean. For the Portuguese coast, Andalusia and northern Morocco, Tangiers, the best seasons are from the middle of March to the middle of May, and the months of October and November. Grenada, which lies high, is suitable for a prolonged stay from April till the middle of June. Seville and Cordova are often uncomfortably cold in December and January, owing to lack of heating appliances. At Lisbon and Tangier, winter is the season of the fertilizing rains, which often last till the middle of March. With regard to the best season for Madeira and the Canary Islands, see pages 19 and 32. The winter is generally bright and genial in Algeria, Tunisia, and Tripolitania in late autumn, till the end of November, and also in March and April, the less settled. Winter is dry season only on the east coast of Tunisia and in the Sahara, but is sometimes cool and windy. It is still hot in October in Sicily, in Barbary, and in Egypt, where the sirocco is especially disagreeable in the early autumn, while our health is endangered by malaria. Of all the Mediterranean regions, Egypt alone offers a dry, settled, and genial climate in winter. The traveler on the eastern Mediterranean who wishes to avoid extremes of cold and heat should make his first stay at Cairo in January or February. Start for the Syrian coast at the end of February or early in March. Proceed to Palestine and Damascus after March is commenced, and visit Asia Minor and Greece in April, and Constantinople and the Black Sea in May. In autumn, from the end of September onwards, the above order should be reversed. Plan of tour. The traveller is advised to draw up a careful program of his tour before starting. All the places described in the handbook may be reached by steamer or partly overland at any time of the year. But during the winter season, from about the end of October to the middle of May, much greater facilities are offered by excursion steamers, circular tickets, and combined tickets. American travelers may sail direct from New York or Boston to some of the Mediterranean ports. Travelers from Great Britain may start from London, Liverpool, Southampton, or Dover. Or if they dread a long sea voyage, may proceed overland to Marseille, to Genoa, to Naples, to Brindisi, to Venice, or to Trieste, and begin their Mediterranean tour from one of those points. Some may prefer the overland route to Spain and Gibraltar, while others again might find it more convenient to travel all the way to Constantinople, Orient Express, to Constanza, Ostend-Vienna Express, or to Odessa via Vienna and Krakow by railway, and thence explore the Mediterranean from east to west. The railway routes will be found in Bradshaw's Continental Railway Guide, or in the German Reichsgebuch. For the trains to Lux services, tickets must be obtained from the International Sleeping Car Company. For sea routes, see Plan 17. For particulars, application should be made to the various companies or their handbooks consulted. Excursion, circular, and combined tickets are issued by Messrs. Thomas Cook & Son, Ludgate Circus, and by other tourist agents. It may be noted here that the pleasure cruises organized by many of the companies offer great attractions at moderate cost, but at the almost entire sacrifice of personal independence, while the fellow passengers with whom one is associated for weeks may not always be congenial. As a general rule, it is pleasanter and less expensive to travel with one or more companions than alone. Apart from hotel charges and railway and steamboat fares, the cost for 2 or 3 persons is often no greater than for one. Moreover, when off the beaten track, the traveller thus escapes from monotonous and monosyllabic conversation with native guides or drivers, and in case of illness or accident, he is far from certain of obtaining assistance and relief. The most useful language in most parts of the Mediterranean is French. In Portugal, Madeira, and the Canary Islands, English is much spoken. In Egypt, it is the leading language. Italian is very useful in Tunisia, on the coast of Tripolitania and Barca, in Malta, throughout the Levant, in Greece and Constantinople. On the other hand, a slight knowledge of Arabic will be found most useful throughout the whole of North Africa, from Morocco to Egypt, and in Palestine and Syria. Some hints on health may be of advantage to the inexperienced traveller from the north. As a rule, an overcoat or extra wraps should be put on at sundown, though they may often be dispensed with an hour or 2 later. When heated with walking, the traveller should not rest in the shade. In hot climates like those of Egypt and the Sahara, he should never remove his pith helmet or other headgear in the sun. Grey spectacles or grey veils shield the eyes alike from the glare of the sun and from dust. Sunshades are also very desirable in hot weather. As a rule, it is advisable to stay within doors during the heat of the day. On the other hand, many places on the Mediterranean are cool in winter, Lower Egypt and Cairo being no exceptions. Steamboat passengers, too, will generally find warm clothing very desirable between October and the middle of May. An extra coat or shawl should be donned in museums, churches, mosques, and other buildings with stone pavement, as the air is often very chilly. When engaging rooms, visitors should insist on a southern aspect, which is almost essential for the delicate and highly desirable for the robust. In every case, especially if the rooms do not face due south, they should have a fireplace or else central heating. In the Mediterranean regions, where many of the plainer hotels have stone or brick floors, carpets are essential to comfort. With regard to diet, also a few general hints may be serviceable. Oysters, fish, salads, and tinned meats should be absolutely avoided. Raw fruit, except perhaps oranges and grapes, should be partaken of very sparingly. Ices and iced drinks are also apt to be upsetting. The contents of siphons, lemonade, and other refreshing beverages are not unfrequently composed of polluted water. The safest liquids are boiled water, natural mineral waters, tea, coffee, good red wine, and in moderation, sound English or German beer. Fairly good cognac or even whiskey may be obtained almost everywhere. But for the time-honored soda or potash, it is safer to substitute boiled or mineral water. Colds, errors in diet, malaria, and overexertion are the chief sources of the sharp attacks of illness to which even the hardiest travelers from the north are liable in the sunny south. Sunstroke is another danger. Against all these, the traveler requires to be more on his guard than at home, where his nerves and his digestion are much less liable to be overtaxed. Care and moderation in sightseeing and touring are therefore hardly less important than attention to diet. Before the journey is begun, a supply of a few simple remedies, see below, may be prepared with the advice of the traveler's physician. In cases of serious illness, as one of the properly qualified doctors mentioned in the text should be consulted. Sprains are best treated with cold compresses. The injured part should be tightly bandaged and given perfect rest. In the case of a snake bite or scorpion sting, the wound should be immediately treated with ammonia, or better still, cauterized. Sunstroke is not common in winter, but may easily occur as late as November or as early as April. The usual remedies are rest and shade. Cold appliances are used for the head and neck. In case of high temperatures, these should be iced. The best protection for the head is either a pith helmet or a tall, perforated straw hat, with several folds of gauze around it and hanging down over the back of the neck. When the eyes are irritated with glare or dust, frequent washing with a weak boracic or zinc lotion affords relief. Lastly, a few simple and well-known remedies, most of which may be obtained in a tabloid form, may be mentioned for other common ailments. Cascara sagrada, castor oil, tamar indienne, or Epsom salts for constipation. A zinc or starch dusting powder for chafed sores due to riding. Tincture of arnica or Elliman's embrocation. Antiseptic wool, collodion and sticking plaster for bruises and wounds. Ammonia, sal ammoniac, or other antidote like muscatol to stings or bites. Disinfectants, carbolic acid, insect powder, chlorodyne for neuralgia, quinine for cases of fever. Fever, be it noted, especially in malarious regions. Sardinia, Sicily, Algeria, Tunisia, Greece, is propagated by mosquitoes, especially by the female of the Anopheles claviger. Light curtains around the beds should therefore be used to ward off the attacks of these troublesome insects. At dusk, and at night, when the room is lighted, the windows should always be carefully closed. When a bite has been received, the inflamed part should be at once rubbed with ammonia. It should, however, be added, in order to reassure the timid or nervous traveler, that few of these elaborate precautions are necessary, except for enterprising explorers who often leave the beaten track, or whose tour extends beyond the usual winter season. Money, passport, custom house. Money. A small sum of money to start with should be taken in English or French gold, but large sums should always be carried in the form of circular notes, care being observed to keep the notes and the letter of indication quite separate. These notes are issued by the London and Scottish banks and by Messrs. Thomas Cook and Son. The checks issued by the American Express Companies, by the American Bankers Association, and the International Mercantile Marine Company are also convenient. Wherever the traveler lands, he will find an ample supply of the small change of the country very needful. Passports are not absolutely necessary except in Turkey and in Russia, but consuls and sometimes bankers require more convincing proof of identity than a visiting card. Passports must be shown at the post offices also in order to obtain delivery of registered letters. Passports may be procured in England direct from the Passport Department of the Foreign Office, Whitehall, fee 2 shillings, or through any tourist agent. In the United States, they're obtained from the Bureau of Citizenship, State Department, Washington, D.C. Travelers may generally get their passports, visas for Turkey or Russia through one of the steamboat companies, or by applying to their consulate at one of the chief seaports, if they've omitted to take this step before leaving home. The custom house examination at the various seaports and frontiers is seldom very rigorous, but the traveler should be careful to declare every new article not intended for personal use. And he should note particularly that cigars, tobacco and cigarettes, weapons and ammunition, the import of the last 4 articles being entirely prohibited in Turkey, playing cards, matches, etc., are liable to heavy duty almost everywhere. These should therefore be carried in very small quantities, or dispensed with altogether. It is rarely worthwhile carrying large supplies of any dutiable article, as the formalities are tedious and the expenses heavy. In Turkey, a second custom house examination of luggage takes place when the traveller leaves the country, a small duty being levied on exports, while the export of antiquities without the authority of government is forbidden. In Spain, Italy, and Greece also permission must be obtained to carry away works of art. Persons who have made large purchases or have a superfluity of baggage to send home had better employ a goods agent. Steamboats. All the leading steamboat companies are mentioned in the handbook in connection with the different routes. The Great Oriental, Australian, and other liners of 5,000 to 12,000 tons burden and upwards touch at very few Mediterranean ports: Gibraltar, Marseille, Genoa, Naples, Port Said. Travellers desirous of visiting the Portuguese coast, Madeira and the Canary Islands, Algiers, Sardinia, Sicily, Tunisia, Athens, Constantinople, and many other places of interest, must generally be content with smaller and often very inferior vessels. The selections of the following brief summary of the chief lines correspond with those into which the handbook is divided. From the United States to the Mediterranean, White Star Line. From Boston about every 3 weeks to Gibraltar, Algiers, Naples, and Genoa in 14 to 15 days. From New York at irregular interviews to Gibraltar, Naples, and Genoa in 15 to 16 days. From Genoa via Naples to New York or Boston at irregular intervals. Fares, first class from New York to Gibraltar, Genoa, and Naples, from £16, according to steamer. From Boston to Gibraltar, Algiers, Genoa, or Naples, from £16 10 shillings. From New York to Villafranche, from £19 10 shillings. Second class, £13. Hamburg American Line. From New York at irregular interviews to Gibraltar, Algiers, Naples, or Palermo, and Genoa in 13 days, and vice versa. Fares first class from £17 10 shillings, second class £13. North German Lloyd Line. From New York on most Saturdays to Gibraltar, Algiers, not in summer, Naples and Genoa in 13 days, returning on most Thursdays. Fares first class from $87.50, second class from $65. Cunard Line. From New York at irregular intervals to Gibraltar, Genoa, Naples, Trieste, and Fiume in about 20 days, returning via Palermo, Naples, and Gibraltar. Fares to Trieste or Fiume, first class from £16 10 shillings, to Gibraltar, Genoa, or Naples from £14 10 shillings, second class fares from £12. Among the regular pleasure cruises from the United States to the Mediterranean may be mentioned those from Boston, organized by the Bureau of University Travel, for excursion steamers from England to the Mediterranean. Portuguese coast. Pacific Line from Liverpool, fortnightly for La Rochelle Police for Bordeaux, Cunha, Viego, Lesoe for Oporto, Lisbon and St. Vincent, Cape Verde, and thence to South America. Passengers for Madeira, the Canary Islands, and the Mediterranean must of course tranship at Lisbon or St. Vincent. Royal Mail Steam Packet Company, Seaplan 19. Netherlands Royal Mail Steamers and Rotterdam Lloyd, both fortnightly from Southampton to Lisbon, Tangier, etc. Yeawood Brothers Line, Seaplan 19. Hall Line, Seaplan 20. Booth Line, thrice monthly from Liverpool, office in the Tower Building, to Havre, Vigo, Lesoe for Porto, Lisbon and Madeira. Element Line weekly from Liverpool to Lisbon and Oporto. Peninsula and Oriental Company, Seaplan 20. German East African Line, London office 14 St. Mary Axe, once every 3 weeks from Southampton to Lisbon, Tangier, Marseille, Naples, etc. Hamburg American Line and Hamburg and South American Company, several times monthly from Southampton, calling occasionally at Lisbon. Royal Holland Lloyd, monthly from Dover to Boulogne, Corunna, Vigo, Lisbon, etc. Compagnia Transatlantica, monthly from Liverpool to Corunna, Vigo, Lisbon, Cadiz, etc. Madeira and Canary Islands. Union Castle Line, weekly from Southampton to Madeira, also fortnightly from London and Southampton, touching alternately at Las Palmas and Tenerife. Also summer tours to Madeira, Las Palmas and Tenerife. Royal Mail Packet Steam Company, fortnightly from Southampton to Vigo, Lisbon and Madeira, also round voyages from London. Peninsula and Oriental Branch Surface, monthly from London to Las Palmas. Booth Line, Seaport 18. Bucknell Line, monthly from London to Tenerife. Aberdeen, Thompson's Line, monthly from London. And Plymouth to Tenerife. Aberdeen, Rainey's Line, about once every 10 days from London, to Las Palmas and Tenerife alternately. German East African Line, once every 3 weeks from Southampton for Las Palmas and Tenerife. Woermann Line, monthly from Dover to Las Palmas and Tenerife. New Zealand Line, and Shaw, Saville and Albion Line, each monthly from London and Plymouth to Tenerife. Yeawood Brothers Line, weekly from Liverpool to Lisbon, Tenerife and Gran Canary, calling on alternate voyages at Madeira. Federal Holder and Shire Lines fortnightly from Liverpool, calling at Madeira, Las Palmas or Tenerife. Natal Line fortnightly from London to Las Palmas. Empresa Nacional de Navegar twice monthly, and Empresa Insulana once monthly, from Lisbon to Madeira. Gibraltar and Andalusia. Peninsula and Oriental Company once weekly from London to Gibraltar, etc. Orient Royal Line fortnightly from London to Gibraltar, etc. North German Lloyd fortnightly from Southampton. Anchor Line almost weekly from Liverpool or Glasgow to Gibraltar. Hall Line, weekly from London to Lisbon, Gibraltar, Malaga and Cadiz. Royal Mail Steam Packet Company, see below. Moss Line fortnightly, and Papayani Line occasionally from Liverpool to Gibraltar. Vapores Correas de Africa from Algeciras to Tangier, Cadiz and Ceuta. Morocco. Royal Steam Packet Company, fortnightly from London to Gibraltar, Tangiers, etc., returning via Las Palmas, Tenerife and Madeira. Netherlands Royal Mail and Rotterdam Lloyd, Seaport 18. German East African Line, Seaport 18. Peninsula and Oriental Company sends Vectus or other excursion steamer from London several times in spring and summer to Lisbon, Gibraltar and Tangier. Compagnia Transatlantica calls at Tangier, if required, also at Casablanca and Mazagan, once a month on the voyage to and from Barcelona. Bland Line, Small cargo boats thrice weekly from Gibraltar to Tangier. Also steamers from Tangier to Tetuan and Larache. Oldenburg Portuguese line, fortnightly from Tangier to Rabat, Mogador, etc. Vapores Correios to Africa, twice monthly from Tangier to Larache, Rabat, Casablanca, Mazagan, Safi, and Mogador. Paquet & Co., weekly from Tangier to Rabat and Mogador. Navigation mixed, weekly from Tangier to Melilla, Malaga, and Oran. Hungarian Adria, monthly from Gibraltar to Tangier and Oran. Western Mediterranean. From Gibraltar to Genoa. White Star Line from New York or Boston 2 to 3 times monthly. North German Lloyd from Southampton monthly. Cunard Line from New York occasionally. Lloyd Sabado from South America once monthly. From Gibraltar to Algiers, North German Lloyd fortnightly. The Hamburg American, the Austrian Lloyd, and the German Levant, all less regularly. Navigation mixed, to Ashenko to Oran, thence to Algiers by rail. From Gibraltar to Marseille, Peninsula and Oriental, from London weekly. Orient Royal from London fortnightly. From Gibraltar to Naples, Orient Royal from London fortnightly. North German Lloyd from Southampton twice, also from New York once or twice monthly. Cunard and White Star from New York or Boston, each 2 or 3 times a month. Hamburg American from New York once or twice a month. From Marseille to Naples, Orient Royal from London fortnightly. North German Lloyd from Southampton fortnightly. German East Africa line once in 3 weeks. Messagerie Maritime fortnightly. Hungarian Adria cargo boats twice weekly. From Marseille to Algiers, General Transatlantique 4 times weekly. Transports Maritimes twice weekly. Navigation mixed, tourist company weekly. Also cargo boat weekly. From Marseille to Tunis, North German Lloyd fortnightly, to Galeta only. General Transatlantique once weekly, and thence on to Malta. And via Bizerta once weekly. Navigation mixed, tourist company once weekly, and cargo boats via Bizerta once weekly. From Genoa to Naples, North German Lloyd from Southampton 2 or 3 times a month. Hamburg American once or twice monthly. Cunard and White Star each once monthly. Società Nationale 3 or 4 times weekly. Italian Lloyd once, twice, or thrice monthly. La Veloce and Lloyd Sabado once monthly. Hungarian Adria twice weekly. From Genoa to Tunis, Società Nationale weekly. North German Lloyd fortnightly to Bizerta. From Naples to Palermo, steamers of the Ferrovie dello Stato daily. Società Nationale weekly. Hungarian Adria twice weekly. Lloyd Sabado monthly. From Palermo to Tunis, Società Nationale weekly. Also small cargo boats weekly. Navigation mixed, cargo boats weekly. From Naples to Messina and Syracuse, Società Nationale thrice weekly to Messina, and once weekly thence to Syracuse. Also steamers of the Ferrovie dello Stato weekly from Naples to Messina, and of the North German Lloyd fortnightly from Naples to Catania. From Tunis or Syracuse to Malta, Società Nationale 6 times monthly. Hungarian Adria 6 times weekly. From London to Malta, Peninsula and Oriental, usually weekly. From Liverpool to Naples and Malta, City Line about once monthly. Steamers to Algeria. From Southampton to Algiers, North German Lloyd once or twice monthly direct. Netherlands Royal Mail fortnightly via Lisbon and Tangier. From Marseille to Oran, General Transatlantique twice weekly. Transport Maritime once and cargo boat once weekly. Navigation mixed, tourist company once weekly. Also weekly steamers from Sète to Oran. From Marseille to Algiers, Seaport 21. From Gibraltar to Algiers, Seaport 20. From Cartagena to Oran, General Transatlantique once weekly. From Tangier to Oran, navigation mixed weekly. Also cargo boats fortnightly. Hungarian Adria once monthly. Steamers to Tunis. From Algiers to Tunis, General Transatlantique, coasting cargo boats once weekly. German Levant line 2 or 3 times a month. Hungarian Adria once monthly to Tunis direct. Several other lines are available for sections of the route. From Marseille to Tunis, see Part 21. From Naples to Palermo and from Palermo to Tunis, see Part 21. From Naples to Syracuse and from Syracuse to Malta and Tunis, see Part 21. Eastern Mediterranean. From Tunis to Malta, see Part 21. From Tunis to Tripoli, Société Nationale weekly, and navigation mixed, Touche Company weekly, both coasting. From Algiers to Tripoli direct or via Malta, cargo steamers of the German Levant line. From Tripoli to Malta and Syracuse, Société Nationale weekly, other boats fortnightly. From Tripoli to Alexandria, German Levant line, cargo boats thrice monthly. Banco de Roma fortnightly. From Tripoli to Constantinople, Société Nationale fortnightly. From Marseille, Genoa and Naples to Alexandria, North German Lloyd weekly from Marseille to Naples and Alexandria. Messagerie Maritime from Marseille weekly to Alexandria direct. Société Nationale weekly from Genoa to Leghorn, Naples and Alexandria. From Venice to Alexandria, Société Nationale fortnightly via Ancona, Bari and Brindisi. From Trieste to Alexandria, Austrian Lloyd weekly via Brindisi and weekly via Gravosa and Brindisi. Steamers to Port Said. All the great liners already mentioned and others besides converge at Port Said. Of the companies dispatching vessels almost daily from British ports, the following are chief. Peninsula and Oriental, calling at Gibraltar, Marseille and Brindisi. Orient Royal and North German Lloyd, calling at Gibraltar, Marseille and Naples. Bibby, calling at Marseille. City Line, calling at Naples and Malta. British India Line, calling occasionally at Marseille, Genoa or Naples. Netherlands Royal Mail via Genoa. Rotterdam Lloyd via Marseille. Queensland Line, Japan Mail via Marseille, and Compagnia Transatlantica via Genoa. Steamers to Palestine and Syria, Kedeval Mail, Austrian Lloyd, Russian Steam Navigation and Trading Company, Société Nationale, all weekly from Alexandria to Port Said, Jaffa, Haifa, and Beirut. Messageries Maritime fortnightly from Alexandria and Port Said to Beirut direct, and fortnightly calling at Jaffa. German Levant, cargo boats twice monthly from Alexandria to Jaffa, Haifa, and Beirut. From Alexandria and Beirut to Smyrna and Constantinople, Kedeval Mail fortnightly from Alexandria to Port Said, Beirut, Smyrna, and Constantinople. Russian Steam Navigation and Trading Company, similar route, weekly. Messageries Maritime fortnightly from Beirut, La Phocéenne weekly from Alexandria to Smyrna, Constantinople. Steamers to the Piraeus, Kedeval Mail, Romanian Mail, Russian Steam Navigation and Trading Company, all weekly from Alexandria to the Piraeus. North German Lloyd fortnightly from Marseille to Genoa, Naples, Catania, and the Piraeus. Messageries Maritime fortnightly from Marseille to the Piraeus. Société Nationale weekly from Genoa to Leghorn, Naples, Palermo, Messina, and the Piraeus. Société Nationale also weekly from Venice to Brindisi, Patras, and the Piraeus. Austrian Lloyd weekly from Trieste to Patras and the Piraeus. Also Greek Oriental and Thessalian lines of the same company, each weekly from Trieste to the Piraeus. Greek Panhellenos Company, weekly from Trieste to Patras, and the Piraeus, Austro-Americano, New York line, quickest, weekly from Trieste to Patras for Athens. From the Piraeus, Athens via Smyrna to Constantinople, Kiddeval Mail weekly, North German Lloyd, Menageries Maritime, both fortnightly, Austrian Lloyd weekly, also Romanian Mail, Societe Nationale, and Austrian Lloyd, the 3 quickest routes, each weekly to Constantinople direct. Black Sea. From Constantinople to Costanza, Romanian Mail, quickest twice weekly, Austrian Lloyd weekly, Fridays and alternate Sundays, Societe Nationale weekly. From Constantinople to Odessa, North German Lloyd fortnightly, Russian Steam Navigators and Trading Company, Direct Line weekly, Syria and Egypt lines fortnightly, Anatolian Line fortnightly, Austrian Lloyd fortnightly, Societe Nationale weekly, Messageries Maritimes weekly. From Odessa to Batum, Russian Steam Navigation and Trading Company weekly, North German Lloyd monthly. From Batum to Constantinople, North German Lloyd, alternate Sundays, Russian Steam Navigation and Trading Company, alternate Thursdays, Austrian Lloyd weekly, Messageries Maritime, NPK and Company, and Societe Nationale, all fortnightly. And I very much doubt that you're awake to hear me now, but I'm going to call it now at the end of that very long list of steamboat routes. If you would like to pick up where I'm leaving off, and hopefully it gets more interesting from here, you can find the original on Project Gutenberg at the link in the show notes. Thanks again for joining me on this episode of Sleepy Time Tales, the podcast designed around a bedtime story to help you to get a restful night. New episodes will be released every Sunday night to give you something fresh to help you rest in a new week. But make sure to follow or subscribe in whatever service you use so that you get your new episodes whenever they come out. Good night, and sweet dreams.